Amazing. LL Nation, what's good? Double duty today for you guys. We actually recorded a special interview that will be going live at 7 o'clock Central Time on our YouTube page with 247 Sports own Carl Reed and Coach Reed Live on all social media platforms. Just an incredible guy, football analyst, recruiting, NIL, everything. This guy knows exactly what's going on and what's trending in college football and how it's going to end up down the line. Great conversation. It's about 35 minutes we spoke with him, and that's going to be immediately after this show. So Malik had to go and do some other things, but we pre-recorded that interview for you guys earlier today. And as soon as we're done, you can come right back at 7 p.m. and watch that. You won't want to miss it. Like, it's so many things we discuss that explains a lot about what's going on with the recruits in the class of 2023 and 2024 right now. Very good interview. As a matter of fact, I have some snippets I want to show you, about 3 or 4 snippets, and we'll get into it. As always, Lucky Lefty Podcast. I'm your guy, Shaun Davis at SD2 Mics, and we are featuring and brought to you by Honora Whiskey. HonoraWhiskey.com is that premium American whiskey, HonoraWhiskey.com. And if you drink, make sure that you drink responsibly, and you should go buy Honora Whiskey because Marcus Freeman sips on it. That's right. That's how he calms down after a nice day of recruiting and a nice day of practice. He sits back in his chair at home and sips on some Honora whiskey. Why don't you? So, NIL, is it impacting Notre Dame? It's a lot of things we can talk about, a lot of things we can cover. But like I said, we had the opportunity to sit down with Coach Carl Reed. Now, he was a longtime coach in the St. Louis area, former football player at Austin Peay in Ohio, and now he's a college football analyst for 247 Sports. His connection really to the football world is still strong. He was Christian Gray's high school football coach in St. Louis last year before he retired and decided to go into what he does now for 247 Sports after coaching for well over 20 years. So his experience, his knowledge, his connection, not only to football players, but basketball players on the NCAA level and the high school level is absolutely phenomenal. So I want to talk about some of the things that we covered, and specifically NIL, right? Interesting. I watched an interview of 2-time national champ Don Staley, head coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball team. If you guys don't watch The Breakfast Club, that's fine, but that's what the interview was on The Breakfast Club on YouTube. And she discussed how her team still doesn't get respect in South Carolina, but her players make more NIL money than any of the other athletes on the campus. Now, that's amazing, right? Because they'll win 2 national championships in 3 or 4 years and won't get the same coverage as the football team who maxes out at 7, 8 wins, right, on average. Football team gets all the coverage. But on the flip side of that, Asia Wilson, all of the Gamecock women, they're getting the better NIL deals. So when you talk about NIL, it's really not about the players. Well, it is about the players because you have to perform. But ultimately, it really is up to the corporations and whomever is in those marketing offices that decide this is the individual that we want to connect to our brand. And I just found that very interesting, that from an attention standpoint, locally within the state, it's all about that football team. But from a corporate standpoint, the Gamecocks women's basketball team makes a lot more money than the football players do at South Carolina. So it's interesting. It depends upon where you are. And that's an SEC school. That's SEC football. But just hearing her saying that, it was very interesting. And it gave me a nice look into what's really behind this NIL. And the corporations, what they're tied into, and who they're tied into, and who they believe in. And this will go to conferences when you start talking about the SEC dominating a lot of things, a lot of corporations. The majority of SEC schools are Nike schools. You think about that. And brand association. We talked about that with him as well. But the one thing he touched on is that during this period, it's a very unique period because it's a blending of trying to finish out and close the deal on the 23 kids and trying to introduce the 24 kids to your program as they come in for visits and they attend junior days and into the fall when they start having their official visits. How do you deal with that? How do you balance that? And how do you go about not losing sight of players even after they've committed to your program?
Why is it so important for these coaches to remember the retention after a commit goes on and commits early? How important is it, and why is it important for them to keep that contact, especially nowadays, kids visiting all over the place?
Because things change every day, right? You can get a kid that's committed, and all it takes is for you to stop calling them. It's just like if you found a girl you like and you start to date her, don't call her for 2 weeks and see what happens the next time you talk to her. It's a whole new ball game, and that's just relationships, man. People, when you're in a relationship with somebody, people love to be treated well. And if they feel like they're forgotten about or left out or that you're taking them for granted, which could happen when you get a kid that's committed and you stop contacting them as much because you think it's over and you think he's loyal to you. Well, all of a sudden, if, like I said, you meet a girl the first day of school and then she commits to the situation, you just assume she's going to the homecoming dance with you, but you never asked her, you never stayed in touch. And then you show up and she's with the other guy and you like, man, you wasn't loyal to me. Well, whose fault was it really? So that's how recruiting is. Kids and families expect to be courted for quite a while.
And it's interesting because he also broke down the number of players within a database for each school, right? So we're talking about, which schools truly call themselves contenders, from administration all the way down to the players, because there has to be a connection. Like, you're not winning a national championship when the administration doesn't support the coach and the coach is not in line with the players. Everyone has to be aligned for a national championship to be won at that particular program. And there are only about 8 to 10 teams realistically every year that consistently have that support on an annual basis, moving in the same direction. And so as we continue to talk about that, we continue to talk about fans going crazy in this time, players visiting, even though they're committed or even though they have a strong tie to a school. Fans are in an uproar with all of these different visits. And after this visit, this team moves up. And after that visit, another team moves up. And the recruit says, well, I really don't feel that program. And then they end up going on a visit to that program. It's a lot of things going on, a lot of news and reports being put out there. Coach Reed tells us how to deal with that.
The fans have always been crazy. But now they have access to social media, which gives them a direct access to the player. And the players love it. Right? They love it until something happens that they don't personally agree with, but they want the attention. They court the attention, and you can see it in they post it. And if you're a player, you got to be able to handle it. Like it's part of it. The fans make football great. It's one of the things that makes college football for sure the greatest game on earth. You have passionate fan bases. They live and die with the way your team recruits. They live and die with the wins and losses. And if you didn't have that, the players wouldn't have the opportunity to make the money that they're being able to make, and pursue the things that they're being able to pursue. I can remember when I bought my first house and the guy was hooking up my cable. He said, man, this is a nice house for such a young guy. Can you handle it? Right? And I think you got to look at it the same way. You're a 5-star quarterback. They're going to give you $1 million in NIL. You got 500,000 followers on social media. Can you handle it? And the guys that can handle it, they move on. And the guys who can't, they'll find themselves doing something else. But, man, that's just the game.
That's the game. That's the game. And the game has been heightened under Marcus Freeman and his staff. You know, the players they want to go after, the players that he promised he would go after and eventually get to Notre Dame to play at the university. That's the beginning of the process. And as a fan base, we're experiencing something that honestly we haven't experienced before. Going after guys that might be prima donnas, going after guys that might be stuck on building their brand, that might be stuck on building up their social media and preparing themselves for opportunities to receive NIL opportunities from corporations. And the real thing about it is it's only going to evolve and change, right? Because if you're a top 5 quarterback in the nation and you see a guy that's ranked below you get a 7-figure NIL deal from a specific SEC school, why wouldn't you hold out to see if you could get the same? Or why wouldn't you hold out until a school that you might be linked to kind of figures it out to see what they can do? And this is the new day. It is. It's just a new day. It's the time we're in. And I know as a fan, as Coach Reed said, the fans are what make college football great. And the fan bases, I understand, it's something different. I can only imagine. Well, not now, because, you know, I'm pretty sure that fan bases like Alabama that are used to things now can be more patient during this time because they have a level of trust and they have a level of patience knowing how this thing goes. Notre Dame fans, like sitting on the edge of our seat, waiting to hear news each and every day. And the truth of the matter is, it's actually fun. It's actually kind of fun. Like if you don't allow it to take you over the edge, it becomes fun. You know, it's great conversation. You know, as long as you can ride the wave of emotions without really, like I said, going over the ledge, it's a pretty good experience to see where these guys are going and see where they are in relationship to your program and whether or not they love your relationship today. And 2 weeks from now, they're in love with another program because they just left a visit. Hey, they're teenagers, and this is how it goes. Heck, I know when I was in high school, like Coach Reed said, you meet a girl, and true story, like I met a girl, I was dating her all summer, came back to school, intended to go with her to homecoming, and saw a freshman. I'll never forget, her name was Miko. Saw a freshman, and I just totally forgot about the girl I've been dating all summer. And my boys asked me, like, yo, who are you going to take to homecoming? And I'm like, man, I don't know. Unfortunately, it got back to the girl I was dating, and she ended up coming up to my locker saying, man, I think we should split up. And it was cool because honestly, my mind was leaning the other way, you know, and that's kind of recruiting, man. That's why you have to continue to court these players, like up until the signing day. If you want a guy, you have to stay on that individual. You have to stay on that individual. This won't be the last. I wouldn't be shocked that kids that say they're going to commit before they start their season, I wouldn't be shocked if they were taking official visits to other schools during the season. It wouldn't shock me at all. It just wouldn't. It wouldn't shock me at all. And this is the day and age we live in. So the ultimate question today is NIL hurting Notre Dame? And the truth of the matter is, as Coach Reed told us, it's the players that decide how much they're worth. And ultimately, as things begin to level off, we're going to start to see the guys that got the deals up front that don't pan out. Now corporations are not as quick to be upfront with certain deals, and they're going to want to see more on the field before they commit as much money. You watch how it goes, because it's really the corporations that are making the decisions of who they want to connect themselves to. And they're connecting themselves and buying into ceiling right now. But let a few of those ceilings cave in. Then we get to see how these corporations react now to these high school recruits and giving 7-figure deals to guys that have never taken the field. Now, we saw what happened with Ewers up at Ohio State, situations like that. All it takes is a couple of more to cause corporations to really hit the pause button and say, you know what, let's allow this to play out and see what really happens. Because ultimately, hype means absolutely nothing.
Now you look at a kid like Julian Lewis, quarterback, 8th grade. He's getting some looks, some offers, some potential NIL deal. They had like a graphic that came out where it was like the 10 high school players and their valued at NIL. Does this change the way you go about it? If you're the parents of a Julian Lewis, where you're like, all right, we got a lot on the plate, but as an 8th grader, I feel like that's a long time to keep up that kind of hype going into 4 or 5 years getting into college.
The hype is going to be based on how good you really are, right? At the end of the day, I told this to a basketball player right now that's about to make a decision on whether he's going to declare for the draft or go back to school. At the end of the day, you have to be good enough, right? And if I was a parent of a prospect at this time, I would be very focused on player development and making sure I was good. Because if you're really good, you're going to be able to cash in, right? But if you fool's gold, if you look funny in the light when the lights come on, all of that's going to come out too, man. And you're going to be sitting there holding your hands and they're going to be empty.
Fool's gold, man. It's a lot going on right now because it's open market and it's a wild, wild west. But I really believe there's going to be some fool's gold with a lot of these deals being made with kids, man. If you don't get the outcome, I don't think companies are paying 7 figures for guys to end up being 3rd, 4th round picks in the NFL, not to lead their teams to an SEC championship or a college football playoff. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's like when you take a step back as a fan base and you really come to understand what's being done, you know where Notre Dame is in the pantheon of programs. FPI, they sit at number 5. In my opinion, they're probably a 5th, 6th best program in the country. It's debatable. I'm sure we have other fans from other teams watching the show right now. It's debatable, but I'll stick with that for the time being. 5th, 6th best program. If you go by wins and visits and appearances in the college football playoff in recent years, some may debate that they could be right there with Ohio State. Debatable. I wouldn't say that. Some might. I've seen some Irish fans debate that. But with all of that being said, if you start putting back-to-back guys in the first round, if you start getting over the hump and winning on the field, NIL will take care of itself for Notre Dame. Right now, that's the biggest thing for Notre Dame to do. Win football games. You want NIL to swing your way because you can't do it like everybody else? Win football games. Win big-time bowl games. Win big-time matchups. Walk into the horseshoe and win convincingly. Allow Clemson to come in, bang on them. Go out to California the last week of the season. Take the Trojan horse, hide them in the back, take the sword from the Trojan soldier and put it in the ground and then run through them for 4 quarters. Make a difference. You want NIL to work for Notre Dame? Notre Dame has to become a program that's considered as being over the hump. That's the best thing Notre Dame can do right now. Get over the hump, win big-time games, and the pendulum will swing in the direction of the Fighting Irish. That's it. It's as simple as that. It really is. There's really nothing you can do. It's the Wild Wild West. That's not Notre Dame's game. But what Notre Dame can control is what they do on that football field. And like Coach Reed said, if you win, you don't have to worry about corporations. They'll come to you. They'll come find you. And that's the most important thing. Notre Dame needs to start winning big, and everything else, more than likely, will take care of itself. So, RF, Nat Boy, Tennessee ain't winning. Tennessee ain't Notre Dame. Tennessee is an SEC school. You know how SEC schools have been operating. Come on, man. You don't do that. Tennessee doesn't have to win. They don't have to. Things are different. SEC schools on a different plane, man. We know this. So we might as well stop fooling ourselves. The SEC, look, the players were good enough to beat Oklahoma State. They didn't. They were good enough. They didn't. All of this stuff about you don't have players, there's plenty of players at Notre Dame. Plenty. Plenty of players at Notre Dame. The one thing they haven't had is a difference maker at quarterback. That's it. Right now, they're predicted and projected to get one of the best quarterbacks in the 2023 class. If that happens, things move. They get closer. We'll see. Can they close the deal? Only time will tell. But heck, they got in this position without NIL. So we'll see how important that plays out. Only time will tell. According to who, every indication is that Tyler is the clear number one. Thank you, Derek Jancart, or John Cart. I hope I didn't mispronounce your name. Yeah, I mean, everybody in the program wants Tyler to win, right? Everybody. It was good to see, because you guys know, both of us, Malik and myself, have been big on the exuberance coming from the defense and the excitement they have about what they can do. And we just haven't been seeing or hearing the same amount of exuberance coming from the offensive side of the ball. It was really good to hear Michael Mayer and the way he talked about both quarterbacks yesterday and the way they've been throwing dimes in practice and how excited he is to come out each day and work with both guys. That was great to hear. Finally, I heard something exciting from an offensive player talking about the quarterbacks, talking about the offense. That's all we've been asking for. Like, can we get the offensive side to match the same exuberance and excitement of the defensive side of the ball? That's all we wanted. Had nothing to do with the quarterbacks, nothing to do with the talent. Man, can we just get some excitement? That's all we want. It's a long spring. Can we get some excitement? We finally got it from the money guy, Antoine Porsche Rodeau. You know what? Brady Quinn on the 2018 team, it's a different game against Clemson. It's a different game against Clemson. Somebody hit us up in the comments of one of our shows and said they rewatched the Clemson game. I don't know why you took yourself through that. I don't know. I don't know why you took yourself through that, man. That's a tough game to watch. Matter of fact, what's the toughest game for you to watch as a Notre Dame fan from the past? The toughest game for you to watch as a Notre Dame fan from the past. Let me know. I'm interested in knowing that. I have to think about it for a while. Off the top of my head, I would say Boston College 93. off the top of my head, I would say Boston College 93. But there might be some more. I have to really think about it. But definitely, I think Boston College 93 is that, you know what? Yes. Yes. Pain don't mean nothing. USC 2005. That's painful. I see a lot of other people saying BC 93. Yeah. P-Dub. Every USC game from 02 to 08. Touche. Yeah, the 05 USC game was brutal. Yeah, I agree with that. Jeff Fluke, what's up, my guy? Any loss to Michigan? Corey D, that Bama game, I don't really know what I expected going into that game. I wanted my team to win, but did I really expect to get a victory against Alabama in that game? I don't know. Sid Irish, what's up, my man? I still have nightmares about Miami 2017, man. Brandon Wimbush said he still has nightmares about it. Still to this day. John A1, the A1 guy. Stanford 2015, 2017, Miami 2017. Ooh, this is a good one. Josh Buffo, the motivational business maker. Thank you for that. The Tulsa loss. That Tulsa loss was, yes, I agree. Another good one. Thank you, Corey Schmidt. Northwestern 2014, a coaching clinic and what not to do. Also, a player clinic and what not to do. Oh, man. Oh, Bob Bornaro. What's up, my man? Yes, the Raghib Ismail clip on the punt return by Greg Davis. I'm ashamed to share the same last name with my man Greg Davis, specifically because of that play that cost Notre Dame back-to-back wins in the Orange Bowl against the Colorado Buffaloes and gave them a fake national championship, in my opinion. A national championship they didn't even deserve. Brian J. Irish, Tulsa, South Florida. That's South. Yo, I think the South Florida one for me was tough because the starting quarterback, that Navy game. Yeah, I agree. The starting quarterback, Demetrius, went to my alma mater, Morgan Park High School. And he was really an athlete playing quarterback in high school. He really wasn't. He was just better than everybody on the field. And he had no business starting that game. He wasn't ready. He just wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. You know what? The Cincinnati game, OSU Fiesta Bowl. Yes. That's a good call, Josh. Yeah. I agree with that. Cincinnati last year. Okay, Corey. Oh, Michael Campbell. Oh, the Denard Robinson play when he beat, Gary Gray. Right there in the right part of the end zone. Yes. I see somebody else with the Michigan State flag. Thank you, Nikita 3000. The Michigan State flag stab. Yeah. Oh, Little Giants. Yeah, it was, Michael. It was, man, crushing. It was, man. I maybe wanted to cry. I'm not sure if I did, but it had to cross. It had to cross my thoughts. Like, man, should I cry? I remember staying up late to watch that. Yeah. Gary Gray had a tough turn of events at Notre Dame. He was a really good player, and unfortunately, he let go of the rope. Yeah, Andre Neely, Demetrius Jones did have a lot of hype. He absolutely did. Great player in the Chicagoland area. He just wasn't a natural quarterback. He really wasn't. JD, that's a good one. The Florida State game with the fake pass and that bullcrap pass interference offense. Yes. That team really tanked after that game. That game meant a lot to that team. I'm not sure they really could recover from that. You guys are coming up with some really, really good ones. Some really good ones. Yeah, so like I said, man, it's a slippery slope when it comes to NIL and when it comes to Notre Dame. And right now, Notre Dame really, they're just going to have to win and raise the stakes, elevate the program on the field right now. I think defensively, specifically, under Marcus Freeman, they will not have a problem attracting the best players. The challenge is going to get the game changer in the building. And of course, all of us hope that game changer will eventually be Dante Moore. All it takes is one, right? You look at Clemson, Deshaun Watson was the one. Before that, Clemson was an annual 9-10 win team in the ACC. 9-10 wins. They got Deshaun, and Deshaun led to Trevor. Trevor led to DJ. DJ led to Klubnik. Klubnik led to Vizina. And hopefully Dante Moore will start that trend. And if he doesn't, then we go to Jaden Davis. And if not Jaden Davis, then we go to Bryce J. Underwood. And we keep CJ Carr. We keep chopping wood. But you have to get that one guy. You have to get him. And eventually, things will change. Eventually, the wide receivers will pick up. Heck, already, we just picked up another running back. So now we have 5 running backs in this room, this crowded running back room. We already have a great offensive line, and they're young. That's why I said I don't know what Eddie George was thinking, because I would have signed up to play Notre Dame this year because they have a better chance against this year's team than they're going to have against next year's Notre Dame team, because the offense next year is going to be loaded, absolutely loaded. It's going to be a serious problem. Serious problem. But that's what we need. We need to get a game changer, offensive recruiting, and then we have to win a big game. We have to win a big game. Yes, the Clemson game during the COVID year was a big game. Not disputing that. But we need to we need to take the next step. We need to take the next step. Andre Neely, could Chris Tyree move to wide receiver? I mean, theoretically, he could. Do I think he's going to move to wide receiver? No. But I'm interested to see. They really say that he's running the ball in between the tackles well when he's been healthy. But I have to see it to believe it. Is Sid Irish being negative today, fellas? Sid is, Sid, he speaks his truth. He speaks his truth. Look, it's going to take something happening for Sid to finally get on board, right? A guy is going to actually have to commit for Sid to finally say, okay, we did it. We did it. KS, I like Jaden Rashada for ND. Malik has played against the kid a couple of times and has a relationship with the kid out there as a coach out in California. He likes him too. And Malik is not a big fan of Chris Vizina. He's not a fan at all. So, this is what I'm saying, man. Like Nico Imaliva, who was my guy, right? I was on Nico before I was on Dante. Keeping it a buck. That was my guy. And then when I found out Notre Dame really didn't feel like he was a fit, not from a talent standpoint, but just a fit with the program and the school and the university, then I moved over to Dante. But for him to get the deal he got, and then for, he's attracting Carnell Tate, he's attracting Cal Casper, he's attracting all of these skill position guys now. They're coming in for visits. Every weekend they come in for visits. Nico's right there. And that's the impact that's having for Josh Heupel, getting one of those guys to be able to spearhead things and start the trend. And hopefully, that's the type of wave Notre Dame's going to have to ride with one of these big-time offensive quarterbacks. And hopefully, we get the guy that we feel like we should get. I disagree. Clemson has a history of being a good football team. Taj Boyd never won more than 10 football games. The biggest win Taj Boyd had was the Peach Bowl against LSU. And that was a big deal. And that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was a 2-loss Clemson team. Deshaun Watson changed everything. As a matter of fact, his freshman year, they were playing Florida State on the road, almost beat Florida State, and they were stagnant in the first quarter. And they inserted Deshaun Watson as a true freshman in the second quarter, got back into the game, ultimately came up short. But it was after that game that you knew the next year with Deshaun Watson at the helm, they were about to take over the ACC for Florida State. And that's exactly what they did. So, Taj was the one that turned the program around under Dabo. But Clemson has a history of winning 10 games, 11 games, national championship. For a while there, they really battled Florida State on an annual basis. Right when Florida State started to get really good. Danny Ford and the old ball coach, Coach Bowden, used to have some battles with the likes of Deion Sanders and other great players in that rivalry. So, yeah, if you go all the way back then, Clemson's always been on the cusp. But they really took that next step as a program when they got Deshaun and Trevor back to back. But shout out to Taj Boyd. He's doing great work in the media right now. Charlie Weiss, last belt loop. Rico's really been talking a lot of Ohio State stuff. Look, man, Ohio State can't sign everybody. That's the crazy thing. Like, all these wide receivers coming in, they're only taking like 4. Like, go listen to some of the Bucknuts, listen to their podcast. Like, there's only so many players that Ohio State can take. There's only so many. So we'll see. But I don't think Rico was really, maybe I'm wrong. I never really got Rico's an ND guy during his recruiting. And he talks more to Ryan Roberts than he does to me. But I never picked up that feeling. Come on, man. Stop, Andre. Taj wasn't soft. He wasn't soft. Yeah, smash the like button for us. We appreciate you. Coming up in about 30 minutes, don't forget, coming up in 30 minutes, the full exclusive interview with Coach Carl Reed will begin on the YouTube channel. You should have gotten a notification. If you didn't, that means you need to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know exactly when all of our content is coming to you. Guinea pig clips. I know you're hoping. We're all hoping that Tyler Buchner is Deshaun Watson. But we need to pump the brakes just a little bit. Just a little bit. KS. Sky Clark, great player. Great player. He's still small. No, they still need size on the wings. They need size on the wings. So that's cool to have a nice point guard. Guard play is vitally important, as you saw from the run that North Carolina was able to put together. They had great guard play, but they had big wings as well, and a big man down low controlling the paint. So, I saw that Curbelo committed to St. John's today. Excuse me. So basically, he went back home. But Sky Clark, in my opinion, is a better player. He's a better player than Curbelo. Wow. I wouldn't even put that. I mean, Sam, you know what? Would I be disappointed? Would you guys be disappointed if Tyler Buchner became Sam Howell? Because I really don't look at that as a negative. I don't. Initially I was like, Sam Howell, but then I thought about it. I probably would want him to be a little bit better. But if he has Sam Howell's production, you can't argue with that. Especially if he was as tough as Sam Howell. Can't argue with that. Let's see, anything else before we let you guys go? John A1, ND Landon, Braylon James would be a nice start, but really need Dante. Dante is the must-have. ND can get capable wide receivers. Gotta coach. Email better. All right. Antoine, I'm so glad that you are confident that he will be committing, and I hope you're correct, man. So, man, we're glad you guys joined us today. Glad I could give you this kind of precursor to the interview. Don't go anywhere. I promise you, you're going to want to watch this 30 minutes we have with Carl Reed. Like, he was very transparent with us, and I wish I had another 10 minutes with him, to really dig deep into some other things concerning Notre Dame. He gave us what he had before he had to go do his own show today. And it's a great interview. So like I said, it's 30 minutes. Hope you guys enjoy it. And you know what time it is.
Petticoat. Petticoat Junction.
It's time to get petty.
Oh, we did a good job executing.
Now, you upset with something?
And fire up the Petticoat Junction train.
I just don't like you.
You don't?
No.
What is today's petty historic Petty Junction?
That's right. Petty Junction, each and every day. Pettiest stories of the day, brought to you by Honora Whiskey. HonoraWhiskey.com. It's that premium American whiskey, HonoraWhiskey.com. Yo, it's a crazy world, right? When I start a petty story with something that we're all used to, when it says Florida man. Yes, shirtless Florida man accused of breaking into restaurant to steal lava cake, cobbler, and ice cream. Lake County deputy said a shirtless Florida man broke into a closed restaurant Thursday and helped himself to some desserts. Deputy said a security camera showed John Castor, 42, burglarizing the Red Wing restaurant in Groveland, Florida. Castor had a small dog and a backpack with him as he ate cobbler dessert out of a pan. An arrest report said Deputy said Castor left the restaurant on a bicycle before being arrested. Officials said that while searching Castor, they found a stainless steel pan filled with cobbler, a lava cake, and a large tub of vanilla ice cream on his person. This is all, he only had a bicycle. That's a bicycle and his dog. Remember that. And the items stolen from the restaurant were almost $200, according to reports. That's crazy. That's mad petty, man. It's like, come on, man. It's like, dude, all he did was, really desserts. Ah, man. Just do a better job securing your place, man. They shouldn't be able to sneak through small areas to get into your restaurant, to go into your freezer, steal a tub of vanilla ice cream, a whole pan of cobbler, and an entire lava cake. Like that's man, that's wild. And I'm sure the fact that he had all of that on his person, only having a bike, there's no way he got all of that into his backpack. No, not a full pan of cobbler. But hey, that's the petty story of the day, man. That's the petty story of the day. Any other questions before we get out of here? Don't forget, interview with Carl Reed coming up about 28 minutes. 28 minutes. Yeah. Dog 2, Irish 1. Joe Hudson, were you in Florida? Your love of desserts? Nah, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I can go buy my desserts. Oh, dude. Oh, man. K-Mac. Now that's funny. If indeed he was doing that. Royal Fingers. Yes, I agree. No. Yeah, you're different in Florida. Anytime a story starts out with Florida, man, yes, you're different. I see you guys having interesting chats and conversations about NIL. Look, we really don't know what the rules are for NIL. Everything's all over the place. Everything's all over the place. This is what Nick Saban warned us about. And hey, matter of fact, Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney have been the main ones chirping. And I actually heard someone from the Draft Network say that they're chirping because they were unprepared. Carl Reed talked about that. And it's crazy. I recently heard someone say that, all this noise that Dabo and Nick Saban are making is because they weren't prepared for change. And they always want to be in control. And I'm like, you're crazy if you think Nick Saban wasn't prepared for what was to come with NIL and the transfer portal.
People who say that they just kind of lost. Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney are as prepared as two guys that you ever going to meet in the business. And they probably have a legitimate concern for certain things, but you have to be careful because they're only dealing with one type of kid.
Yeah.
Right? They are dealing literally with the cream of the crop.
They're not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere. They're only recruiting 40 kids a year.
Yeah, it's real limited.
So it's a real small group of dudes. And so the concerns that, and I've said this to both of them before, the concerns that they have, most 95% of the other coaches in the country don't have it. And so it's why when they say something, it's so scrutinized because nobody else can relate to their situation. Probably the only other guy that can relate to them is Urban Meyer.
That's yeah. Their database every year, cream of the crop, Alabama, they're going after 40 kids. That's it. 40 kids. These are our 40 kids. We're going after them. That's it. 40 kids. It's probably them. Maybe Georgia goes after 50. But like when Carl Reed told us that in the interview, like they recognize 40 kids every year that are the cream of the crop. And that's not including transfers, JUCOs, and everything else. This is just purely high school recruiting. They recognize 40 kids, and they have an 80-man staff strictly for recruiting. It's just unfair. Dude, you have 80 people on staff dedicated to recruiting, going after 40 kids every year. It's unfair. It's like, what? You have to find it. You just have to find another way to beat them. You just have to find another way. Chances with Malik Elsie, Notre Dame, if they work, they can probably get back in the race. Right now is Illinois, Cincinnati. Illinois, Cincinnati, in my opinion, for Malik Elsie. Another South Side Chicago kid. Really good guy. Really good guy. Yeah, and I saw Joe, in a sense, you're right, and then in a sense, quite not yet. I mean, not quite yet. I saw what you said about Kyle Hamilton. He was one of the highest paid, but that was because of the work he had done on the field. Like when it comes to high school recruits, Notre Dame, guys coming out of high school and that connection, Notre Dame hasn't really tapped in to that yet. Notre Dame, with guys that have actually played and produced, I agree with you. But recruiting-wise, not yet. And Joseph, that's what I said earlier. That's the one thing Notre Dame can control. Win games. Up the stakes. Build the brand. Take it to the next level. Yep. And Sid Irish is right. You need players to win, so it goes hand in hand. But if they can just get one game changer, everything can change. And yes, I am a Bulls fan, Corey D. Not looking forward to this series starting this weekend, but hey, I'm a fan. So I'll be cheering. Doesn't look good, but I'll definitely be cheering. Irish Chi-Town, dude. If there are rules, I'm sure they have different titles that they can give everyone that probably changes the dynamics. But when I heard that, I was like, yo, that's bananas. That's bananas. That's like a recruiting service. Like if you have 80 people on staff for recruiting, you have your own recruiting service. And that is bananas. Absolutely amazing. Second behind Magic. That's it. It's him and Magic Johnson and him. Everybody else fall behind. So thank you, everybody. We're about 20 minutes. You guys can go get a snack. Come right back to the Lucky Lefty Network page on YouTube and enjoy the exclusive interview we had with Coach Carl Reed about NIL, branding, and its effect on Notre Dame and college football at large, man. As always, it's because of you guys that we've had the success that we've had, and we greatly appreciate you. We hope to see some of you next weekend, this time, down in South Bend. We'll both be there, myself and Malik. And as always, spin it different. Go Irish.